Welcome back to Cards and Comics. Today I have a vintage mail day. It's all baseball. I did football vintage in my football mail day, my most recent one. Now, I did a video recently where I talked about how pre-war 90s cards are more similar than you think. And some people were like, yeah, I can see it. Some people were like, you are insane to think those two kind of products are similar. But I have a pre-war card here, and I'm just going to talk about it a little bit just to tell you why I think it is. And we got an E98 Connie Mack. It's a beautiful card. I love the green background, and that's the thing is, like, you know, there's so many things to these cards where you get the colorful background. So colors, you know, this has got the checklist back, but there's so many cards, like, you know, in the pre-war where they have a lot of variations, and it could be color, it could be border, it could be backs. So, you know, and then you got all these little sets where, you know, it's like there's rare, like a set could just be so rare you could just, you know, if you just find a card from it, like Victory Tobacco cards or something like that, you know, like so rare that just having a card from that set is hard, and that makes it kind of fun. And the chase is cool, and not everyone, you know, if you have really good knowledge of the set, just like the 90s, you know, having a lot of knowledge of the product and the sets that are out there gives you an advantage when you're in the marketplace looking at cards. It's like, oh, I know this set's super rare, or this set's not super rare, you know, and it helps. So, you know, you can use your knowledge to help you building your collection. And so I think the cards are more similar, you think, but this card is fun. I really like Connie Mack, you know, and in terms of just like, he doesn't have a ton of cards, but it's just cool, like, you know, his name, how important he was as like an early manager. So just kind of fun. You know, I know some people hate manager cards, but, you know, Connie Mack is one of those guys that is kind of a hobby legend. So cool to get one of his cards. It's like getting a Charles Comiskey card. There's one, I think, in the old Allen and Ginter set, and I always think that card's so cool. Next up is a 48 Bowman Bob Feller. I always think it's funny when people like advertise this as his rookie card. I'm like, man, he's got a 38. I mean, he does. So it's not his rookie card. So yeah, I get a lot of glare here. I don't know, like, if it's bothering you guys or not. It's hard when you've got these shiny cards and sleeves. So I'm trying not to make the cards hard to look at. But yeah, definitely a cool card. I have the Musial from this set and the Kiner rookie. So, you know, I've been building slowly, just getting all the rookies, and so it's cool to get the Feller. And you'll see I've got another Feller coming up. You know, a guy, I guess, was a Bob Feller collector, so I got two of the cards that he ran on auction. This is a really cool one. There's the back. Love this card. Yeah, just a huge fan of Bob Feller, and, you know, he's definitely one of those guys who the war really made it where his counting stats would have been probably through the roof if he was able to, you know, pitch his whole career without having that interruption. So next up is the other Bob Feller, the 55 Bowman 7. So for people keeping track at home, that's like the third SGC card in a row. So hopefully we can dispel that myth that my good buddy, sports card dad Dustin, put out there, like I'm a PSA shill, or I'm a PSA set registry guy. I just like collecting cards. And early in my career, I was more of a PSA guy just due to resale value, but now, and the grading differences. And I'll die on this hill like 100% of the time. Early SGC grading, they did not count centering off enough, in my opinion. And so centering was, you know, if a card could be in an SGC 7 or 8 holder, that was like 90-10. And I hated that. So, you know, I stayed away from SGC cards because of the centering differences they have at PSA, and they fix it over time. So the grading differences aren't as dramatic as they used to be. So collecting SGC makes a lot more sense to me now after they made some of those adjustments. So 55 Bowman. In reality, I look at this card, and it's got a few corner dings and a little, like, you know, right here you can see a little bit of white there, but I mean, card's clean. I don't mind this rough cut. I think the rough cut makes the card look more pristine than if it was smooth, honestly. Next up is a Hoyt Wilhelm from 56. It's a 6.5. I just picked it up, anytime I see a 50s Hall of Famer, 6 plus, I'm just like, if it's 30, 40 bucks, I'll pick it up. And it's a gray back. And again, Hall of Famer. So, not much downside to do that. Pick up some 50s Hall of Famers. More SGC cards. I own both these cards. So I picked these up, in my, just because that they look nice. I mean, this was a loft center. But, being this area, Yastrzemski is a popular guy. Really pretty bag. And, with a lot of these SGC cards like this, I sometimes pop and send to PSA because there's still a delta on pricing, for these kind of cards. It's not as big as it used to be, but there's still a delta. So, again, I get the whole like, oh, maybe if I get the same grade, I'll make a little more money on it. If I get a bump, I'll get even more money. So, it's kind of like, I'm in the area. Getting a Yaz card like that doesn't have roomy downside, but it allows me to maybe do a grade, regrade. Now, this card is a well-centered card. It's a beautiful card. The 7.5, Jim Palmer. Second year Jim Palmer, so he's by himself. You can see the back is just gorgeous. Again, you look at these back, little tips of white on those corners. And so, again, I think this is definitely a card that's pushing that 8 boundary pretty hard. Eye appeal on this card is tremendous. It's a great card. And again, didn't pay a ton for this card, but it's growing in popularity, in my opinion. It's like the 66 Joe Morgan. It's a great photo with the trophy on it. That card sells a lot more than it used to, and this card is starting to, because it's the first full or solo card for both Hall of Famers. So, just a beautiful card. I'm glad I was able to pick that up. Next up is one of my favorite cards that I've never owned before. And it's a 7.5 grade by PSA. And definitely going to have, Hall of Famer on it. And then you've got 2 really good players here, Don Baylor and Dusty Baker on one rookie card. And this card is really well centered and just a nice looking card. A very nice 7. Very nice. 7.5. Kind of see those corners are just really, really good. Because again, with the black, it's just so tough. And on the back you can see that very, I think that's the only real touch that you can really see. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those borderline cards, but it's a beautiful card. Never owned this card in a PSA or any sort of graded format, probably raw at some point, but happy to finally get this off the list. I'm collecting all the 71 Hall of Famers, or big cards from that set, and so this is another good one to pull off. And it's like, it reminds me of Steve Garvey, right? Like, Steve Garvey is one of those guys that might eventually make the Hall of Fame. And, when he does, his rookie card is going to go just berserk, just like Burt Blylev instead. So 71 sets turn into a monster. Because if you think about it, like, besides the Thurman Munson, all the Hall of Fame players in that set are expensive. Like Rose, Bench, Clemente, Mays, Aaron are getting very expensive. Nolan Ryan. But then you add in the fact you've got multiple rookie cards in that set now, and it's just like that set's going to be just insane at some point. Here's a cool O-Pee-Chee card, 78 Mike Schmidt. Just, I always pick these up when I can. And then you got that odd looking colored backs, because of that white paper they used. So just picked up, again, for fun. I like picking up, these Hall of Fame 70s and 60s O-Pee-Chee cards whenever I can. Now, last but not least, because I'm saving the big guy, this is like my favorite card. I mentioned in a lot of videos going back that I was working on a big vintage card, and it's really 2. So this is the first of the 2 I'm working on. I finally was able to get the card at a price point, and I waited and hoping the price point would drop. It did. I was able to win it. It actually went to auction, and love the grade, love the card. And I went looking for this card back in 2020, let's say 2, I think the 22 National. And I couldn't find it at the show. There wasn't the grading condition I was looking for, so I was able to get it now. And it's the 50 Bowman Jackie Robinson. Whew. So this is, got a lot of stuff going for it. For one thing, I'm a big fan of 50 Bowmans, and it's polarizing, right? You got a lot of people who don't like the smaller cards, but I love that full body pose of him batting. 50 Bowmans, just percentage wise, are just so much harder to get than a lot of other years. In the 50s, just some of them are ghosts. This card has a lot higher pop than a lot of other cards in the set, just because it's so expensive, but it's still a minuscule pop count compared to like a card from the 60s and 70s. And it's freaking Jackie Robinson. There's the back. Yeah. 6.5 grade. I mean, it's close to 7. It's pretty well centered. I mean, this card can be terrible off center. It can also not have good color. So it's just all there. I mean, honestly, like, this card just presents itself really nice. It's got great eye appeal. So now, looking at my collection now, I've got, from a Jackie Robinson perspective, I've got 55, 56, 49 Bowman, now 50 Bowman. So that's my 4th Jackie Robinson card. 52 Topps is high on the list. So that's going to be like, a card I really want. 54 Topps as well. 53 Topps. Those are the kind of like, maybe one a year. Next year I go after the 53 Topps or 54 Topps, trying to get a 7, in one of those two cards. On the 53, I'll get a 7, most likely 5 or 6 maybe. But this card, I mean, I waited and waited, and finally the price dropped, and I was able to get it for a good price point. It's just a beautiful card. I think it's always going to be, it's up there, man. Like, I got this card, I've got the 49 Bowman. Such a great pair to put next together. So that's the mail day, guys. Hope you like it. I mean, I've been very selective lately, because this was a big card, and I was just really trying to get this procured and in the collection, and I was finally able to do it. I was super happy, and I'm going to continue to buy vintage. I'm never going to be just a 90s guy or whatever. So I'll always have vintage, and I'm going to hopefully get more 50s and pre-war. It's the goal. So keep me in check. If I'm buying too much 60s and 70s stuff, call me out. I should be in the 50s and pre-war, because that's where I think the true rarity and value is in vintage, honestly. 60s and 70s cards, just, they're great. But again, if I'm going to look at it, I've got a lot of those cards already. So I should be pushing myself backwards a little bit in my collecting goals. So there it is, guys. That is my mail day, hit with the, kind of the big boy at the end. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.